Welcome to the BrightWord Books podcast. BrightWord is a leading platform for diverse storytelling, where voices from all backgrounds can share their unique narratives and connect with readers from around the world. Follow our regular podcast updates, where we strive to foster a literary community that celebrates creativity, inclusivity, and the transformative power of literature.
Welcome back to the BrightWord Books podcast, where we shine a light on authors who inspire, who challenge, and move us with their stories. Today, we're honored to welcome back Dr. Robert Petties, a returning guest and the powerful voice behind the book Battle-Tested Soldier. In this second appearance, the doctor himself will take us into a deeper journey, a life that is marked by resilience, marked by pain and purpose, from the battlegrounds of military service to surviving domestic trauma and battling PTSD. We have so many stories that we haven't talked about, and he will share his healing with us. In Battle-Tested Soldier, he opens up about the emotional and spiritual warfare that shaped his life. This isn't just a book. It's a lifeline for anyone who has ever faced hardship and wondered how to rise again. So get ready for an honest and deeply human conversation about faith, about endurance, and what it truly means to overcome. Doctor, hello.
Hello, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and I just want to take the time to thank you for allowing me back here once again with your awesome audience. And, I really enjoyed myself, and I'm excited about being here today.
Well, we are excited to have you here. So can you tell me first things first? This is what I like to ask my guests. How is the family? How's things going on?
Family is doing well. Everyone, I have no complaints. That's the greatest thing about having peace, when everyone is doing well, you have no complaints at all.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have your aches and pains and stuff like that, but overall, everybody's doing well. Thank you for asking.
That's great to hear. That's great to hear. Now, Robert, since your first visit and the release of Battle-Tested Soldier, what kind of feedback or maybe impact of the stories that you've had received, and maybe something surprised you, maybe something deeply moved you? What can you say about that?
Wow, I could tell you that I have received some overwhelming positive response on the book. Many people have said that they would never be the same after reading the book. They felt that not only was there some stories, but they felt equipped to be able to tackle some of the things in their life. I did have one gentleman share with me. We was at the VA, and he said that the book, after reading the book, it felt like he was sitting down with a brother who traveled down some of the same dark paths that he did, and then it didn't sugarcoat anything for him. So he really felt that was a positive, not sugarcoating the pain, but yet also showing the strength. The Battle-Tested didn't mean that he was being broken, but it meant that he had the resilience, and that it taught him the true strength resided in the honesty, and then and reached out to him. So that was a great feedback that I received from him.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's sort of the effect that you had on people. But I'm also interested what effect it had on your personal healing now that you've shared your story publicly.
My personal healing, it really did allow me to really see and understand that courage and vulnerability within. It would allow me to see the transformation of my pain into purpose. By sharing the story, it allowed me to transform my experience, which also made you feel isolated, but I didn't. I was isolated or even in shame into a source of hope in
Right.
helping others. So that my pain had become that bridge, not a
Mm.
barrier.
Yeah.
It
Right.
helped me reclaim my narrative too. Because many times you're going through those things, we find that there's a narrative for the pain and suffering you're going through. So
Hmm.
by sharing a story, allow me to take that ownership, rather allow my past to control me.
You said something there that is very interesting. You said it took you a lot of courage to be vulnerable. Can you expand on that?
Yes, to be, being vulnerable is not easy for me.
Mm.
We like to protect ourselves. And so being able to share your story about the hardships and the pain and the suffering and the domestic violence issues that you go
Mm.
through, break it, it makes you vulnerable because you want to know how people are going to look at you. Are they going to look at you differently?
Right.
How are they going to judge you now that they know some of the things that you share?
Right. I understand what you're saying. I mean, especially the sometimes men have a misunderstanding of masculinity itself, and they fear that if they share or they cry in front of someone, then that makes them less of a man, and it makes them, not as manly, which is what they aspire to be. And so they hold things in, and that really exacerbates the psychological problems that they might have in the future or have at the time of not letting go. And truly, it takes a lot of courage to say, you know what, I'm gonna drop my shield down and I'm gonna take this head on. So
Mhm.
yeah, to that I truly admire men who can be that, and you are one of those people. And now you are doing this. You dropped your guard down in search of peace. Would you say you've acquired that?
Yes, in some instance, I feel that I acquire peace, but I feel that my peace actually comes from God.
Mm.
I'm a man of God. I believe in prayer, and and having that peace with God has allowed me to not worry about things that I can't control.
Right.
My family's good. You know, I have the things in my life that I need. Of
Hmm.
course, we always want more than what we have,
Absolutely. Yeah.
but my needs are met. I after all I've been through, it helps me understand that it took me into a deeper state in personally when I talk about peace. It's no
Hmm.
longer just the absence of conflict or noise, but something richer. That it took hard work to take and to get to achieve during that journey. Just like you asked, have I found it? Well, I think I found it in my life, my personal relationship.
Right. And
I have
would you say you started searching for peace, or your definition of it changed?
I would say my definition has changed
How was it
because
before?
you know peace with no worries. You don't have any problems.
Hmm.
Everything is perfect,
Right.
but it's not perfect. It just allowed me now to understand as I sit back and after writing the book, accepting myself. The scars, the pain, the
Hmm.
strength of everything, no longer fighting with my past, but integrating it as part of my story,
Right.
letting go of what I cannot change and finding rest where it's at, so, that was the most challenging part of that, not getting trapped in my regrets or part or my past, my anxiety. It was about my future, appreciating the simple joys
Mm.
in my
Mm. And looking back now, what would you tell um, your younger self before? entering the military or facing trauma at home?
Ooh, I got a long.
You have a lot to say to your younger you, right?
I got a lot to say. Well, when you're younger, you don't have the same knowledge that you have when you get older. You get a little bit of wisdom. So for me, if I had the opportunity for my younger self, I would really say, I would like to sit down and talk to you. Understand that right now uh, you're going to be entering into a world that you can't fully imagine yet. Whether it's the discipline and demand of the military or the battles you're going to face abroad or what you have already at home. So I want to sit down with you for a moment, look into your eyes, and tell you a few things that your older self had experienced. I want to be able to tell him you're stronger than you know. You know, there are days that will test you to your core. You know, you doubt yourself. You wonder if you have what it takes. You begin to think about your friends in high school and how many of your peers will tease you and talk about you because you didn't participate in some of the outlaw activities that you're in. But trust me, you have what it takes. The strength is in you already. I would say it's okay to feel, as we discussed, we're talking about. It's okay to not hide your fear, the sadness or the pain, to be tough. We always talk, you got to be tough and, you don't show those feelings, but letting yourself feel and still move forward. Don't bottle it up because it'll tear you up on the inside. It will make things a lot harder than it should be. And then I also want to say, you're not alone. No matter how isolated you feel, there are people out there that care and who will be with you, will reach out, to that brotherhood, that friendship, those loved ones and family members. It's a lifeline. So you don't have to try to make it through yourself. You don't have to be afraid. Just grab onto that lifeline. Then I would also like to say, Robert, your worth isn't defined by what happened to you. You're not your trauma. You're not your mistakes. You're not your scars. You're worthy of love. You're worthy of healing. And you're worthy of a future, no matter what you go through. And don't be afraid to ask for help. It's okay. It's okay to say, I need help. I know there's times when you was around older adults and they would tell you that, you're not a real man if you have to ask for help. You have to be able to do these things on your own. So you don't have to carry every burden alone. Seek help. Whether that's a friend, a mentor, a professional therapist, or God.
Yeah, or priest or whoever.
Whoever. Take care of your soul. Go to church, read your Bible, find nature, music, writing, prayer, whatever those things to help you stay grounded. And forgive yourself. I would tell them to forgive yourself. You'll make mistakes. You have regrets.
Just like everyone else.
You learn from it. And just like everybody, learn from it. Don't let those things define you. But give yourself the grace that you would give a friend. And the last thing I would say is you would be proud of who you become. The battles you face abroad and at home will shape you, but they won't break you. You will find peace and strength that goes deeper, so much deeper than you can imagine right now. So I would like to tell that to my younger self.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic. And if I were to try and summarize everything you said, I would say don't fight your past, integrate it into your current and future life, and the do not be ashamed of your battle scars because eventually they'll become medals, basically a testament to how much you fought and what you got yourself in life. So I think that's very fantastic. That's a very fantastic way of looking at your past, at your present, and planning for your future. Now, since you've been doing and going through this healing journey, do you still find there are some challenges or things that maybe trigger you still, and they're kind of like testing your healing and your process?
Yeah, I do believe that. I found that healing is not that straight line.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then sharing your story. When you share your story, like I did in Battle Tested Soldier, which was a huge milestone for me. It doesn't mean that your journey is over. It
Mm-hmm.
didn't mean that, okay, I shared it and everything is done. In fact, the new challenges and triggers surfaced through that because I was beginning to talk about some of the things uh, that I went through. You
Mm-hmm.
know, since Battle Test is Thursday, I had Soldier. I had to face those new triggers, my vulnerability, as we was talking about before,
Right.
after sharing the story, it made me feel exposed a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Made me feel there are moments I'll begin to second guess myself,
Mm.
wondering if I told too much or didn't share enough,
Right.
you know, having how people would actually see me, and then those times through that process, certain conversations that you would have with others and news stories, or if I would go somewhere and do some reading and hear some feedback from others, sometimes brought up memories and emotions that I thought I had already put to rest.
Right. Right.
Hearing those things in the story book is a healing and sometimes can be overwhelming. So it helps you help me echo that understanding that my pain, it was still there, but although I was still moving in that healing process, it helped. It made me revisit old wounds.
Mm-hmm.
If
Mm-hmm.
I could say that, because when you discuss things and you share things
Right. Right.
about the past, where it can bring up some painful memories, some
Right.
hurtful. And then sometimes retelling that story over and over again
Mm.
can bring up some grief and anger and hurt and sadness that you hadn't expected,
Mm-hmm.
healing, so it's an ongoing process.
Right.
I feel
Right.
that healing is an ongoing process.
It's like a
And
wound that you have to open before you can close off for good.
yes,
Hmm.
yes, yes.
And in this, because you've said something earlier, but when you said seek help and find a community and everything, I want to ask you a more of a specific question about that because I want to know what role do you think the community and the connection plays in the healing process, especially for survivors of trauma.
Healing, whew, it plays a tremendous uh,
Mm.
part in that process. Why? Because when you're going through things, the community, once they know what you're going through, they understand that empathy. They help you, they encourage you, they support you. You begin to feel like I'm not alone because there's many people and other things that is enduring the same thing that
Mm.
I've done. So that is very important in that process, to have that community. I find it in, going to church, being around like-minded people,
Hmm.
uh, finding that safe place where you're talking to your loved ones and your friends, and they understand. You protecting yourself, your mental and your your spiritual health in that process. So community is big. I'd
Right.
say getting into groups,
Mm-hmm.
support groups, because your story can help others as well.
Mm-hmm. 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 And now that we kind of touched on masculinity, you have a very particular mix of trauma, unfortunately. I mean, but I want to know, how do you view masculinity and strength, being a man who not only lived through war, but also experienced domestic violence?
Masculinity and strength. Society, have really narrow ways of defining
Right.
these concepts, and often emphasize dominance, emotional uh, suppression, or physical power. But for someone like myself who lived through war and domestic violence, I feel these definitions kind of like as limited.
Mm-hmm.
In some cases, it can be harm.
Right.
My perspective has changed, regarding masculinity and strength. Being honest about my feelings, struggles, and needs. That's true masculinity. Isn't
Mm-hmm.
about, hiding pain, but about having the courage to face it and to share it, the responsibility, taking care of myself and others, using that experience to protect, support, and uplift those around, integrity, acting with honor.
Mm-hmm.
These
Mm-hmm.
are some of the things that have changed that my experience. Having survived war and domestic violence, is already demonstrating that strength, that
Yes.
endurance, adapting and surviving.
Right.
But
Right.
healing and growth often comes from, embracing, our full humanity. It doesn't say, oh, this and that. Masculinity and strength is not just about being invulnerable or emotionless.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There
Yes,
is about
absolutely.
authenticity,
Mm-hmm.
resilience, that compassion and the courage to heal and connect,
Mm-hmm.
so that journey will, with all that pain and surviving is just a testament to that deeper and more actual strength. So one that inspires others and help redefine what it means to be a strong man.
Mm-hmm.
So I, for me, that this process has changed that old masculinity concept or thought
Right.
that was back in the past.
So you're saying there is a balance to be struck between being a warrior and also being emotionally open and vulnerable.
Correct.
Right.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the lessons that we got today. But also, I'm interested in the lesson that you want us to get from the book. If battle tested soldier became a movement, or say a part of a curriculum, what would you want it to teach people?
Wow. That's a very inspiring vision, I must say. Uh, the battle tested soldier became a movement or curriculum. It can offer some transformative support for men, and I say even for women, especially those from the military in
Mm-hmm.
or high adversity backgrounds.
Right. Tough
Like
backgrounds.
exactly. Bobby defined as strength, healing, being able to uh, understand what that true strength is.
Mm-hmm.
Teaching them about the vulnerability, self-awareness,
Mm-hmm.
and the courage to seek help. That takes so much courage to be able to tell someone I'm struggling, to tell someone I really need that help. So being able to also tap into that emotional intelligence, to be able to, for them to understand and express emotion is a skill. It's not a weakness. You know, so I would want them to learn those things. I would want them to know that they're not alone. That many men have walked in this path, found healing. You know, that their story matters. Sharing their journey can help others. You know, healing is possible. I would want them to, no matter what, how tough things go through, I would want them to know that. I would want them to get the message, excuse me, that Battle Tested Soldier isn't about erasing our past. It's about honoring, learning from it, building a future where strength means wholeness, connecting on your purpose. Now, I would want them to know that they can survive their battles if they haven't already, you know, survived it. And now it's time to thrive, to be able to thrive in that. So I would want them to take that away from Battle Tested Soldier.
Absolutely. I think that's a great takeaway there. And now you also mentioned that God played a huge role in your healing. Are there any specific spiritual principles or even verses that have guided you most recently?
I would say yes. You know, the Psalms. I want to think Psalms 23 and 4. He said, "Even though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff have comforted me." You know, that's when I'm going through. I can feel things getting a little heavy. I go to that verse because it lets me know I'm not alone again. He's with me. You know, the being able to go through and finding that meaning, you know, hope, you know, belief in the future, the reflection, you know, that's what I really the concept of understanding, you know, scripture. I'm a big guy. I know I'm talking about it a lot. I'm a big spiritual man. I know that where God has brought me from, that I shouldn't be here today. I died 4 times. So that hope, that forgiveness, you know, and that compassion, faith, and gratitude is what I get from that.
Well, I mean, and the thing is, when you're doing the kind of healing that you're doing, you're not only healing for yourself, you're healing through your expression of your emotion, through your writing, through, you know, talking in podcasts such as this one. And so you have this bigger mission where you're sort of like healing yourself through helping others heal. And that's why I want to ask you, what is next in your mission? Do you see yourself writing another book, mentoring, public speaking? What kind of other work do you see yourself doing next?
Well, I do have another book. The plan is called "Just Because You're a Male Doesn't Make You a Man." You know,
True.
I
Facts.
will be conducting some seminars and teaching on some of the tools and principles and techniques to help individuals to be able to get through their struggles and their battles. So some seminars, not just telling them about it, but giving them some tools, some guidelines, helping them through that, doing some public speaking, getting that wherever I can go to make a difference. That's my plan on being there. If I can help one person, to me, that's a success. That's where I want to be.
And now, I mean, that's great. I mean, and so, what would you say beyond survival, which used to basically drive most of your decisions in the past, given the situations you were in? Now that you're in the position that you're, what would you say drives you beyond just, you know, survival?
Well, I would say that on the reflection, that that survival is about getting through that day, because you can't worry about tomorrow until you get through today. So getting through today, living about finding something worth getting up for, finding some the help from your loved ones, your brothers, your sisters, that I met along the way in my journey, and to hope that the story will help someone else find their strength. That's what drives me beyond survival, knowing that I can help someone else through their struggles. That it don't have to be a superstar. You don't have to be this rich person or Einstein. It's just helping them through their journey, and helping them understand that someone is here to help you, who's been through what you're going through. So that what helps drive me beyond my survival.
Absolutely. And as for my last question to you, this has been fantastic, but I'm very, very interested in knowing what do you think about those who say that you need to hit rock bottom, then you can start healing. But as long as you didn't hit rock bottom, then you can't really heal. Do you agree with that sentiment? Do you?
Oh no. Well, rock bottom really is different for everybody. And in some cases, some people probably won't even have to deal with that in their life. So to wait till you hit rock bottom means that you actually hindering your health. You might need help faster. So soon as you identify some things that you're struggling with, get help. Don't wait till you rock bottom. It might be too late if you get to that point. So why wait and just say, hey, I have some issues. I need some help. Maybe again, talking to a trusted friend. You're going to, again, to a spiritual service somewhere, or maybe just, talking to your mate. My wife is my best friend. So there's things I share with her, and so it's part of the healing process as well. So, don't hold on to it. It can really tear you up inside. It affects your health as well. So I really do not believe that you have to hit rock bottom.
Right.
Because healing process can start at any stage in your journey, at the very beginning, or in the middle, and the end. Wherever your journey begins, that healing process can start anywhere.
Well, that wraps up another powerful episode of the BrightWord Books podcast. It has been an amazing one, and truly a heartfelt thank you to Dr. Robert for joining us once again and sharing not only his incredible book, Battle Tested Soldier, but also his courage and conviction. His words remind us that pain doesn't define us. How we respond to it does. If today's episode spoke to you, be sure to grab a copy of Battle Tested Soldier and share this conversation with someone who might need it. I'm sure everyone in our lives have someone who needs this kind of conversation. If you're not the person, and don't also forget to follow the show for more inspiring author stories and powerful personal journeys. Today's one has been a fantastic one. I'm sure we have more. And until next time, keep reading, keep reflecting, and keep rising. And Dr. Robert, any closing words?
I just thank you once again for the opportunity to be on the show. And I really thank everyone. And I hope that listen to this podcast and really take something from it, so we can help them get through their battles.
Absolutely. Well, I have been your host, as always, Winston, and we will see you in the next one. Thank you so much, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
You've been listening to the BrightWord Books podcast, home of the literary community that celebrates creativity, inclusivity, and the transformative power of literature. Don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss future episodes. Until next time, stay informed and stay engaged.